The Outlander behind me here is the GT Premium, which in Canada is the highest available trim level. So we've got 5 primary trim levels in Canada, with some different options for different packages and things like that, depending on if you're in Canada or the States, for just the regular gas engine. One cool thing about the Outlander is that it also has the option for a plug-in hybrid. Because I'm in Canada, the GT Premium here is going to be very similar to the ES trim level, so the highest trim level available in the States. A lot of similar features, but this thing is like crazy packed with technology. It's actually kind of wild. But before we dive into this car and learn more about it, I do want to give Scarborough Mitsubishi a huge shout out and a thank you for giving me access to this thing today to shoot the video for you guys. You can check down in the description below for their contact details. You can find a build link for this car on top of that. If you want specific videos like how to use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, factory navigation, or using the steering wheel cluster, you'll find those down in the description of the video on top of that. But let's dive into it and unpack this vehicle because it actually is kind of neat when you look at it. Starting off, taking a look at the wheels. So the Outlander does have a few different sizes and styles that are available. So we're either 18 or 20-inch tires, and then we've got a few different style rims. I personally love the look of the black appearance package, so the blackout package available inside of the Outlander. Along the bottom part of the vehicle, we're going to have different options for our bottom rockers, and that's going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. That's going to dictate if it's body color versus a different type of material instead. Now, a few key differences between Canada and the States. The big one is that in Canada, we strictly have the option for our S-AWC, which is going to be our super all-wheel control. It is all-wheel drive, but Mitsubishi has decided to call it all-wheel control instead. In Canada, we're strictly looking at that AWC, whereas in the US, you're able to get it either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive instead, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle you look at. You have a series of packages that are available on top of that. And because we've got that AWC system, we've got a series of selectable drive modes inside of this thing with a really cool look on top of that when we get inside of the cluster screen, so we can navigate through all of our different drive modes. It looks pretty dang cool all at the same time. But tons of different technology pieces available. This thing does have the option for a surround view monitor, so a full 360 camera. We've got our side view mounted cameras, our front camera, rear camera, stitched together for a really, really cool 360 view. Now we do have some standard things like LED headlamps. And then we do have the option for our fog lamps, halogen or LEDs, depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. And that's a recurring theme inside of this. The features that you're gonna get, obviously look with every manufacturer, are gonna be based off of the trim level that you've got. But this one, being the GT Premium, essentially is as packed as this thing's going to get. We've got our forward sensing system, we've got our front-facing camera on top of that. So this thing has front sensors, rear sensors, and one of the cool things, the technology inside of this thing. We've got front brake assist and we've got reverse brake assist. So if there's a vehicle that's coming up in front of us that we don't see, the vehicle can help slam on our brakes on top of that. It's really, really cool. And then we've got our Mitsubishi badge right in the front middle there. Interesting styling right along the grille. So we've got a few like separated parts. We've got this main part to force air underneath the vehicle there, keep things nice and cool. And then we've got our base styling there with this top part closed off completely, but it looks sharp, especially with the Outlander badge that we can find along the very front side there. Now, one cool thing is that when we've got the windshield wipers going, we also have the flexibility of having our, look at this, front nozzle pop out there as well. How neat is that? You want to make sure that these things always stay clean. You've got that flexibility to do it. Just underneath our Mitsubishi badge there. So we've got a little release there. So we lift up a bit, we just pull, and up she goes. Bar there, off to the side, so very straightforward. And then we've got this. So this one is the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. We do also have the option for the 2.4 liter plug-in hybrid. So it's going to depend on what you need. Do you like that idea of being able to have some electric with the gas backup just in case, or do you strictly want gas? So gas prices have come down a tiny little bit. Like we were at like $2 plus a liter. It's down around like what, $1.48 right now. So prices have come down a little bit, but it is kind of cool because when we get into the hybrid, it's plug-in, but we've got a pretty decent range on there. I believe it's 30 kilometer range up in Canada, which is kind of nice. But Power-wise though, the regular 2.5 liter has got a boatload of power advantage over the hybrid version of it. So this 2.5 liter pushes out 181 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque. So not a ton of power, but at the same time, it still is pretty respectable, and we do get some pretty good gas mileage out of it on top of that, which we'll touch on in just a second. But we've got our heat shield along the very top. We can easily change our oil ourselves if we want to. Easy access to the battery. But I mean, overall, the look underneath the hood of this thing, it's pretty nice. Taking a peek along our driver's side door. So along our side view mirror there, we've got our little blind spot indicator that lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. Moving back a tiny little bit, we do have this little button on the outside. So as long as we've got our key fob on us, we can press that in order to be able to either lock or unlock the door, which is fantastic. But hopping inside, look at this. Look at the color patterns there. It follows all the way throughout the inside here. Looks fantastic. But let's start off with some basics on the outside here. Darken you up a little bit. So you can see we've got this like beautiful stitching that follows all the way throughout. Nice like diamond weave texture along the door. Nice look along the door there, which follows through parts of the interior. It looks fantastic. But along the driver's side door, we've got this nice glossy highlight there. We've got a few seat memory buttons, which are tied to our key fob. We've got our handle, this nice like faux carbon fiber right along the door itself. Unlocking our lock buttons. We've got our side view mirror control, power folder side view mirrors, our window up and down. We can also kill off power to those rear windows. We've got a little storage space along the side, a little storage space along the bottom there on top of that. But as we start to hop inside, let's look at some of these controls. So we've got the flexibility of adjusting our seat. Which options we get are going to depend on the trim level of the vehicle that we're in. But in this one, we can go backwards, forwards, up and down. We can also adjust our backrest there. And then we've got two-way lumbar support on top of that. Slightly different for the passenger seat, again, depending on your trim level. And let's just move this thing up a little bit. Look at this. Nice little Outlander badge there, which looks fantastic. On the inside, so just underneath, we've got a few different buttons here. We can adjust what's going on with the brightness of our instrument cluster. We can also power open and close our liftgate if we've got our power liftgate as an option in the Outlander. This is a button for our head-up display, so if we want to turn the display on, off, we can just push this button there in order to be able to do it. Off to the side, we also do have our adjust for our steering wheel, so it's a manual adjust across the entire vehicle lineup. We just drop down, adjust as necessary there, which is great. And as we start to move down, we've also got our hood release, so getting underneath the hood, just going to give that a single pull in order to make it happen. The first row of the Outlander is pretty dang nice. So I gotta say, I do really like the look. It's really, really nice, but so many different options that are available inside of this thing. It's like, where do you even start when you've got a car with so many cool options? We'll start with some highlights. I did mention all of these great looks along the door. We've got that like, I love it, that like tan, brown, orangey type of look that follows all the way through at the dash. Stitching follows all the way through at the seats, etc. It's really, really nice. Oh, I love it. Now, I did mention we do have our seat memory buttons. One cool thing, we can tie it into user profiles that we can set up right through that media screen, which is fantastic. But the overall dash styling is great. We've got our head-up display there as well. A few different options for our cluster. So we've got the option either for fully digital or traditional analog, depending on the trim level of the vehicle that we're in. There's either an 8 or a 9-inch media screen. Again, depending on which trim level you're in and whether you're in Canada versus the States, it's going to dictate which features you get. But going through some basics, like I love it. We've got our windshield wipers on the right side. We've got our turn signals and adjusting our running lamps on the left side. We've got a series of different options for flipping through the cluster screen. We've also got our essentially hands-free driving experience. So this thing can help us out adaptive cruise control. It can keep us perfectly balanced in our lane as well. It's a phenomenal system. I love the base highlights inside of the steering wheel though. Looks nice, that nice metallic look, our Mitsubishi badge right in the very middle there. There is technically the option for a heated steering wheel, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. We are going to be push button start inside of the Outlander there. So single button press with the brake pedal on is going to turn the car on. If we don't have our foot on the brake and we go to push, it's going to turn us into accessory mode. So it turns on everything essentially except for the engine. And then in order to start the car, we just have to put our foot on the brake, press, and we're good to go. We've got our four-way blinkers on top of that. And as we start to move down a little bit, I love this little trim here. It's really sharp, but let's brighten you up a tiny little bit. We do have a series of other options that are available down here too. So we've got our heated first row seats for both the driver and for the passenger side. We've got our heated steering wheel button down there. We do have at least dual zone climate control. And I say at least because we also have the option of tri-zone for the rear. So we can adjust what's going on for the rear separately from what's going on in the first row. If we want to, I did mention, so dual zone, we can have it different for the driver passenger side. If we hit sync, it's going to sync up everything to whatever the driver's side is set to. We can turn on our air conditioning. We've got our rear adjust. So you saw that one earlier. We can adjust our rear settings. We can adjust our fan speed there. We can have it going to our windshield, face, feet, some sort of Frankenstein combination of all the above. We can also turn on our air circulation and then our windshield defroster. Up along the top, we've also got a defroster there for front and for our rear. So very straightforward. Moving down, we've got two power points, so a USB as well as a USB-C as well as our traditional USB. We've also got a 12-volt power point. And then, so if your phone supports wireless charging, we do have the option for a wireless charge pad, just depending on which type of phone we have. And you can see there, if your phone supports it, it does toggle it on, and we can see our lights on there. So this is the Samsung S9 Plus, and as you can see there, quite a little bit of space. This is the iPhone 7 Plus, which is about the same size as the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which means that, yeah, you will have more than enough space there. This does technically move back a bit, but as the phone slides back, we actually lose our wireless connection there for our charge pad. So it is nice. There is quite a little bit of space available there. I like the shifter though. It's really, really nice. It fits nice in the hand. Like it reminds me, if you've ever driven a manual transmission, like a short throw shifter, that's exactly how this thing feels. It's phenomenal. So we've got our park mode, but we just kind of drop down to get to our drive mode. We push back in order to get to our manual mode. Push the button here, up to get to reverse. And then just our park again from there. So very straightforward, but I mean, it is like a short throw shifter. It's really, really neat the way that this thing feels. Moving down, as you can see, we've got this like beautiful glossy highlight. And then we've also got a few other things. So our parking brake, auto hold setting's a neat one because with the auto hold setting turned on, if we're in drive, we can take our foot off the brake and the car's not going to move, which is fantastic. And we've also got our drive mode selector. And the drive mode that you're in is going to depend on what you need out of your vehicle. But we've got 6 different options that are available. So we've got our eco mode off to the side. We've got our normal mode. We've also got our tarmac, so more of like a sport mode, gravel, so like an off-road, a snowy mode, and then our mud mode, which is more or less like a truer off-road. Now that metallic highlight that we see throughout the door and part of the dash, the lower part of the dash, it also follows through the cup holders there. It's kind of cool. We've got 2 little cup holders as well. And we've also got a little armrest there, which doesn't have too much space to it, but it's there for a little bit of extra storage if you need it. But so many cool options. Like, I love all the different features that the media screen has. Wireless Apple CarPlay, wired Android Auto, the option for factory navigation when you get the 9-inch screen on top of that. We do have an auto-dimming rear view mirror, which can be turned off, which I think is fantastic. We've also got sunglasses holder, some base cabin control lights. We've got our sunroof as well, which I got to do this. Hold on. All right. Roof open. Let there be light. But so nice. Single button press opens it up halfway. Secondary button press opens up the shade the remaining way. And it's even the same way with the sunroof. Like when we pop this thing open, it opens it up just about the full way with one button press. But there we go. Secondary button press opens it up the rest of the way, and then easily closing it from there. There is a little SOS mode on top of that as well, which is kind of neat. But one interesting thing is that you can also call SOS yourself if you want to. So there's a little button, drop down, push SOS if we need to call somebody to help. It's kind of nice. From there, we've got our vanity mirror built right into the visor. We've got our little business card holder, and it does say sliding visor because this thing is covering off pretty much all of the sun that might be hitting our face along the side there, which is fantastic. We've got our assist handles on both the driver passenger side for the first and for the second row, which is kind of cool. But like I said, overall feature styling wise, this thing is nice. I love all of the different options. One really cool feature that I love about the Outlander is that, yeah, we've got front and rear windshield wipers, we've got that washer fluid and things like that, but our front windshield wiper fluid actually comes out of the wipers themselves. It is really neat. And one cool thing is that when we've got our lights on and we go to use our windshield wiper fluid, it's also going to wash our front lights. It is really, really cool what features and options this thing has. But one thing, audio test. You have to do that. You have to do an audio test. So one cool thing, we've got a voice command prompt in this car.
Please say or select a command.
Tune to 97.7 FM.
Tuning to 97.7 FM.
So really straightforward. We've got amazing song. But one cool thing is the sound in it. It sounds so nice because this thing has the upgraded Bose sound system. So it's either going to be a 6 or a 10 speaker depending on your trim level, but it's really nice. And you heard that, it sounds fantastic. But like I said, if you want to walk around on how any of this extra technology stuff works, check down in the description below for that walkthrough instead. But we got to see what's going on in the second and third row of this vehicle because it looks a little tight in the third row, but I'm very curious how I'm going to be able to fit. Let's go have a look. One cool thing I noticed when I first got into the second row here, this thing has the option for sunshades. So it's not something that you see that often, but it is really, really cool that it's got that available there. It's kind of nice. Now, a few things to point out, spacing wise. So I'm 6 feet tall. I've got the driver's seat set up for someone who's 6 feet tall. It's how I'd be comfortable driving. I have a decent amount of knee space, good amount of foot space, up overhead with me sitting fully upright. Ooh, that's tight. All right, so one thing, I can slide the seat back or forwards a tiny little bit, but back of my head, I've got about 3 inches of headspace. Front of my head, like maybe an inch and a half at the very most. So I can still comfortably fit inside of this seat here. 3 full-size versions of me might be a tiny little bit tight. Not impossible to fit 3 size versions of me in the second row, but it is still possible. But at the same time, the seat is really, really nice and comfortable. We've got a few different options for the seat itself. So cloth seats, leather seats, depending on the trim level of the vehicle that we're in. But this is nice. Oh, that's kind of cool. We've got our main pocket along the back of the seat for driver passenger side. We've got these like tiny little storage pockets on top of that. That's really, I don't think I've ever seen that before. It's kind of cool. But so many different things. The styling along the door, same way for the second row as it is for the first, which is really nice. We've got our assist handles for both sides, clothing hooks on both sides, and our light control on top of that, which is really nice. Now, a few other things to point out. We do have the option for tri-zone climate control in some of the higher trims of the vehicle. And tri-zone, which means that we can control it through the back here. We can also control it through the front. So if the driver passenger want to, they can adjust it here. We've got the option for second row heated seats. Now, that's strictly going to be for the outboard seats. So for the driver passenger side, middle seat is never going to be heated, but at the same time, it still is nice that we've got that heated outboard seat as an option inside of this thing. But one interesting thing, so along the door itself, we've got like a little bottle holder, but we've also got a little tab we can pull here. When we pull, we can drop, and we've also got some cup holders here. So if you've got kids fighting, we can separate them. We've got cup holders there on top of that, which is kind of nice, but this is actually pretty comfortable. I'm still throwing off like a tiny little bit because my head, like as I move back and forth, sitting fully upright, kind of grazes the top like a teeny little bit. It's not too bad. But one cool thing, so we've got a little tab along the side, so along the seat, and we can pull that if we want to fold the seat down, which is nice, but we can also pull it if we want to. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's way better. Oh, what a difference. Okay. If you want to like create even more headspace, pulling that in order to fold the seat back, like recline it a bit, really, really nice. Oh, this is like riding in style now, even more headspace. Like this is wild. I've got like 4.5, almost 5 inches of headspace now. So if you've got taller people like 6'4", 6'5", they'll probably be able to comfortably fit in the second row with the seat reclined a little bit, which is nice. We do have bars in between our legs, so for the full bench. So it's technically a 40-20-40 split with this middle seat being able to fold down, but it's technically a 60-40 because this main bench moves forward backwards by itself, and then this seat also moves forwards backwards by itself. So you've got some options that are available there, but I mean, it is nice, it's comfortable. We've got our anchors, we've got tethers, so if you need front-facing, rear-facing child seats, not gonna have an issue inside of this vehicle whatsoever. It's really nice. Really nice, I love it. But I did mention, so with the third row, it is there. This is technically a 7-seater. So we've got our 2 front seats, we've got our 3 middle seats, and we've got 2 seats in the back. Now, looking at the seats in the back, I'm 6 feet tall. It is gonna be like a teeny little bit tight back there. Like just like a little bit. All right, now, getting into the third row, it's actually not that challenging. So right along the top of the second row seats, we've got a little release. We just pull. And that's gonna slide it forward. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, so what I'm gonna do, oh man, this is tight. So the way that, this is so tight. All right, if you've got young kids, the third row seats, not gonna be an issue for them whatsoever. So either young kids, shorter family, whatever the case may be. Me being 6 feet tall, I'm probably gonna have to lay sideways in order to comfortably be able to fit in the second or in the third row seat. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's not gonna be perfect just because of the size of this vehicle. But I mean, at the same time, the second row seats, super functional. Third row seats, if people are a little bit shorter, you could technically jimmy rig the seats, move everything forward in the second and the first row to make it that little bit more comfortable. But I've got like next to no foot space here. Head space is like even tighter. Like I can't, so sitting upright, this is what's up. So it's a little bit tight back here. Not impossible to sit back here. Like I said, I could kind of like fold off to the side if I really needed to. But I mean, 6 feet tall, you're not sitting back here. Filling up fuel inside of the Outlander is also very straightforward. So along our driver's side, we've got a little cutout, capless filter. So just insert your fuel hose, fill up, and you're good to go. Minimum manufacturer's recommendation inside of this thing is just your regular 87 gas. So you don't need to use any sort of a premium fuel inside of it. Doesn't matter if you're in the regular gas version or if you're in the hybrid. One little caveat, if you're in the hybrid though, this gas cap is actually going to be locked. So we've got to unlock it from the inside there. But at the same time, it still is pretty nice. We've got that option. When we look at plug-in charging for it, charge times are going to be literally all over the place depending on if you're doing level 1 versus level 2 charging. But I mean, at the same time, you can just plug it in regular wall outlet at home. I think like maximum at 14-hour charge in order to be able to fully charge it up in order to get that maximum range inside of it. Towards the back end of the Outlander, same thing, good styling throughout. We've got this nice kind of silver highlight towards the rear end of the bumper, our nice black contrast down below. I didn't mention, so this thing does have the reverse sensing system. We've got our backup camera, we've got our nice looking tail lamps, we've got our rear wiper on top of that, which looks fairly sharp. A few other things to point out, this thing does have a good towing capacity, so up to 2,000 pound towing, which is pretty respectable for a vehicle this size. We've got our Outlander badge and our S-AWC badge along the opposite side there. But one cool thing is that this thing also has the option for power liftgate, which is really nice. But let's swing around and see what's going on in the trunk area. All right, so cargo dimensions for the Outlander are showing up. So as you can see there, for just the cargo area by itself, not a ton of space, but we've also got the option of easily folding down the third row. But in order to truly fold it down, we actually have to fully remove the headrests. So easily remove left, right side. One cool thing is that we could just technically store these things right underneath the back, which is kind of nice. Now, in order to be able to fold these seats down, it's straightforward. So we've got a little tab along the back, so we're just gonna pull and drop down. And as you can see there, fairly flat fold, which is kind of cool. But I mean, really, really straightforward. With that third row folded down, we can open up even more space as necessary. And then one really cool thing is that we can easily fold down the second row from the back here as well. So along both sides, the driver passenger, we've got a little release. We can pull that. In order to fold that down, just have the driver's seat forward a little bit too much. So let's adjust this out. There we go. But take a peek and see how much of a difference this makes when we've got the second row and the third row folded down. So still a really nice amount of space there, which is great. And then we've got two different benches. So for the rear, we've got a 50-50 split versus in the middle, we're technically a 40-20-40 split. So we do have a little thing in the release in the middle there. And we can fold it down just that teeny little bit. So if we need to transport lumber and things like that, we would have that flexibility, which is nice. Easily popping that back up again. But one thing to point out is that when these seats are down, so release from the back here again, so we drop down, it actually locks the seat down into place. So we can't lift it back up again until we pull the tab along the bottom. So we pull, lift, and we're back up, and it's that simple to do it. There's not too much stuff towards the back end of the Outlander here. I did mention, so we've got our release there, so we're just gonna pull if we wanna fold down the second row seats, which is kinda nice. We've got a little light off to that left-hand side. We've got this little tray, so lifting this thing up, it is locked into place there, but we've got a little privacy shield on top of that, so privacy guard. So if you've got the third row folded down and you want to make sure that anything that's in the back cargo area is hidden, we've got that flexibility. And then just underneath that, we also do have a little bit of storage. So as of right now, I've got the third row headrest in there. Along the right side of the cargo area, not too much back here. Again, we've got that release for the second row, the right side of it. And then we've also got a little 12-volt power point back here. So not a ton of stuff. Ooh, we've also got some cargo hooks. If you look, you will see. So we've got some cargo hooks there as well. That was a look at the Mitsubishi Outlander. What did you think? I think it's kind of nice. All of the different features and options it's got, all the technology at the same time is pretty dang cool. But what are your thoughts? Drop down in the comments section below and let me know what you think about this ride. I think it's kind of neat all at the same time. Now, one little caveat, I haven't been able to test drive it yet. So this unfortunately is a sold unit, but once it is available, I will definitely be updating the description with a test drive video. Hopefully I can get in behind the gas and the hybrid version. I'd love to do like a comparison for a drive on those ones, but I do again want to thank Scarborough Mitsubishi for letting me use this thing for the afternoon to shoot the video for you guys today. Check in the description below for their contact details. If you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and until I see you next time, take care.